Welcome to Andy Staples On3. It is the first night of week 1. We are an hour away from kickoff in Salt Lake City and in Minneapolis. And I don't think I could have this moment without bringing on someone very special, someone near and dear to my heart, someone who's going to help me pick games because he's the biggest degenerate I know. Ladies and gentlemen, Ari Wasserman of the Athletic. The host of Until Saturday. What's up?
I'm the biggest degenerate, you know. I mean, probably.
True.
Yeah. So, hey, buddy, let me tell you, I'm happy to be on and let the grab ass commence. It's really the most wonderful time of the year. We're talking about football. We've got a game on right after this, and I'm ready to get after it. So, and also too, there might not be a lot of marquee games in terms of 5 or 6 matchups, but there's a lot of really, really interesting games this week, just in terms of like getting answers to questions that we've had all offseason, and I'm excited to get those answers.
Absolutely. I mean, because that's like Alabama, Middle Tennessee on its face is not interesting at all, but we're going to get answers on Alabama's quarterback situation, which we've been talking about all offseason. Texas Rice, I think we know what's going to happen, but we just want to see that Texas team on the field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do, especially because I picked them to make the playoff this year. The thing that and I told you last year I would never do it again, and I didn't even last 1 year. If they don't do it this year, I am 100% out. But there's just too much to like about their path and what they have on the field this year to ignore that. But so, and I'm also really excited just to see like what Colorado is. It's like this amorphous image that's like out into the universe, and you don't like really know what to expect. And Andy, I was looking at the composite rankings.
You almost said the competition.
I almost said it. Yeah, I know.
Man.
You caught me slipping. I've been 45 seconds on the show, and I'm already screwing it up. But they moved up 35 spots, like in total team talent ranking. And that was way higher than I thought it would be, even with the flip. So what we're going to get from them, I think, is a super interesting dynamic. And really, I'm just excited to plot my butt down on the couch and really get into these sort of things. So, wore a resort hat for you.
Oh, the win, beautiful. I appreciate that.
As much as things change, they all stay the same. So let's get after it.
Oh, it's beautiful. I got Elon Wake Forest on my TV. That's the appetizer, but hopefully we are your second screen, getting you ready for Utah and Florida and for Minnesota and Nebraska. And Ari, so let's explain to the folks how this show is going to work. So you and I are going to pick games against the spread, but it'll be the games that'll be played Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We're not picking the Thursday games because if you listen in podcast form, the first thing you're going to hear is me talking about the results of the Thursday games because I'm going to do a live reaction show when they're over. So if you guys are not busy in 3.5 hours, we'll talk to you then. But this is so exciting for me. I can't wait. Do we want to just, as a bonus, throw some Florida, Utah, Nebraska, Minnesota picks out there just to see how dumb we look when you've already heard who won the games?
Sure. I don't know where you'd want to place it in the show. What we did was we did it at the end of the show so that the people listening on Friday morning didn't get spoiled at the beginning. But listen,
no. They'll get it all because they'll already know. They'll have watched the game. So it'll be the first thing they hear is me going, "Oh my God, did you see that Minnesota-Nebraska game?" So right now, you tell me on the spot, are you rowing the boat? Does Matt Rule have a saying? I don't think he has a saying.
That's what I love about
Go
Matt
Big
Rule
Red or
in
row
Nebraska.
the boat. What are we doing?
Absolutely no grab ass at a place that's just been inundated with hilarious, Ralph Wiggum, whatever, grab ass. I like Nebraska in this game because I'm just going to say it. Like, it's the first time in how many years that this program has just had consistent competence across the board. Like the way that he is going to do everything with this program, whether it's recruiting and how they manage the quarterback situation that they had with Dylan Raiola while he was still uncommitted, or how he has been a steady builder of programs. The landmark of what Nebraska football has been is, sneaky talented when you look at the way that they've recruited despite the dysfunction, and then losing in hilarious close games by doing really crazy things like onside kicks when they're not warranted and, weird turnovers on special teams and all that stuff. Like, just picture a world where Nebraska just isn't that anymore. They're just a team that plays hard, doesn't make stupid mistakes, isn't an embarrassment, and it's just like painfully competent. And then you might have a team that is in every game in the Big Ten West and might be there at the end of the year. And I'm super excited to see what Jeff Sims brings to the table when coached by, a coach that is incessantly competent at a place that has some pretty good talent. Because, we saw some flashes of him at Georgia Tech, and we all know they're not playing with a full deck there. So, give me Nebraska and give me more of them. And listen, a lot's changed in a year. Last year, Nebraska was the butt of every joke. But I just I'm ready to see competent Nebraska.
I picked Nebraska too, but it was more of a steal a win because Minnesota has no film on what you're going to be. Sort of the same way Florida stole a win against Utah last year. But you said it better than me about Matt Rule. We're both taking Nebraska in that one, which they're the underdog. So I'm taking them straight to win straight up. Florida, Utah. I picked Florida in this game before the line dropped. Still picking Florida, even though the line has moved toward Florida. I understand why they're not playing Cam Rising. I get it. I also just the total here is 44. Ari, I'm saying under. I'm thinking this is a slog.
Yeah, and I've noticed here in the last half hour that the line has moved back to 5.5 from 4. So, this is a really, really interesting game because I think that both teams are going to want to probably play pretty conservatively, try to take what the defense gives them, run the ball as much as they can, try not to have pretty devastating turnovers, and try to muscle out a win. The thing that I'm most curious about in this game is, not so much about what Utah is, because that's the model of consistency. I want to know, like, if Florida is going to have a pulse this year. And I know that they're flying across the country. They're playing in a really tough stadium. The altitude thing is happening here. Also, what the hell is Graham Mertz going to be? Is he going to be a player that's never thrown for 300 yards in his entire career and has been very inaccurate and, at times been in games where I felt bad for him? Or is he going to actually be surrounded by that SEC talent that wasn't, quite as abundant in Wisconsin and be a player that we don't think that he can be? We did a show on Until Saturday earlier in the year of like 5 most intriguing quarterbacks that you're just curious to watch. And Graham Mertz made my list because I just can't look away from this whole thing.
Oh, yeah. All right, guys. So you're either listening to that going, if you're listening in the Friday podcast, you're either listening to that going, man, these guys are smart, or man, these guys are dumb. So whatever that energy you're getting right now, based on what you saw last night, apply it to what you're about to hear. Ari, it's time to pick some games for Friday and for Saturday. I want to start with the battle for Miami. And first, we need Brett Gabbert to lead us into this one.
I think this plays off the same question, but the real Miami is where? In Coral Gables or here in Oxford?
Oxford, Ohio.
Because you're around longer, you're just...
No, I just think we'll show them September 1st.
Blaine Gabbert's little brother's got some trash talk, some bulletin board material.
Yeah, that's my favorite type of bulletin board material too. Poor guy shows up ready to have an innocent press conference. Reporter asks him a question that he can only answer one way. And then after he answers it that only way that he can, it's viewed as trash talk. But if I were to take my family on a vacation, it would definitely be to Oxford, Ohio over South Florida for sure. So
this is our Norman Los Angeles argument all over.
Yeah,
again.
I didn't know if we want to go down that road of which beachfront property house you want to buy. But, I am interested a lot in what Miami brings to the table this year, because which one? Let's talk about the one that most people care about. Last year, Tyler Van Dyke didn't really have that great of a year. I think that's saying it nicely. The offensive line that Miami brings back should be a little bit improved. I love some true freshman 5-star action getting onto the field. And I just don't know when it is a reasonable thought process for Miami to turn the page and become a very good football team. Like, I look at other coaches that are in Mario Cristobal's situation, second-year coaches. I mean, if you think about just like the difference between like the seat that Billy Napier is on in Florida in the same state and the way that we view Cristobal, like, it's like I feel like he's kind of sidestepped the rage of the impending hot seat. And I don't know how that's happened. And maybe it's because if Mario can't do it in Miami, nobody can. But like, Miami was a really, really big disappointment last year. And I don't know how much more of a disappointment they can be this year before people start getting impatient.
he's going to get the rage if they're not good. Like if they fart around against Miami of Ohio and don't cover this 16.5-point spread, or if they get dominated by Texas A&M, where, I mean, they've got really good athletes at Texas A&M, but Francis Malinoa, Samson Okinola, let's see how they do. It looks like those two true freshmen will be starting for Miami at tackle. So maybe they'll pull a Will Campbell and Emory Jones from LSU last year. Maybe that's what happens. They get better on the line of scrimmage and they just get better. But
Yeah.
I'm taking Miami to cover in this one. But I want to see, how do those young guys look going into a game against some absolute aliens against Texas A&M?
But I guess when you're in this situation too, it's like, what other options do you have but play freshmen? You know?
Oh yeah.
The whole thing is just like, we're rebuilding
That's
this
why
from the ground floor.
that was your pitch to them, is you can come in here and play right away.
You know, and it kind of makes you in a less advantageous. It's just a general question of, you know, when it comes to Florida, when it comes to Miami, when it comes to places that, you know, have some talent on their roster, but also are in really fertile recruiting areas and are very sexy transfer destinations, what is a reasonable expectation for how long it should take the coach to flip the roster and be good? You know, we're not talking about a Deion Sanders 1 year, 80 players gone scenario. We're talking about like if Florida is a 5 to 7 loss team this year, is that acceptable? Like that to me is so interesting, because in this new world of portal, you know, we talk about how quickly coaches can rejigger the offense, or, you know, get guys into the fold that can help them get better in year 1 or year 2. Doesn't that also speed up the timeline of when you're expected to have a good football team?
Yeah, I think you get 2 years. And now, look, this is a little different situation because Mario Cristobal, they can't afford to fire him after 2 years. So even if it's a disaster, he's fine. Napier, they're not going to pay his buyout after 2 years either, so he's fine too. But 2 years probably should be for a program that because Miami didn't stink when Mario got there. Like, Manny Diaz was not doing the greatest job in the world, but it wasn't like they stunk. So yeah, 2 years is a reasonable expectation. Now,
you know what's funny though? It kind of reminds me of the Nebraska scenario a little bit too. It's like, at the time when Scott Frost was the head coach, he came back and, you know, everybody thought this is exactly what this program needs. A person that understands how to win big here, who gets the culture, who understands what it is to be a Cornhusker. And then when that didn't work, you know, got this feeling of like impending doom. It's like, if this guy can't figure it out, then who's going to figure it out? I kind of get that feeling with Mario Cristobal a little bit, because they've tried every single, you know, Miami takeover type personality that they have to try to get in there and actually, you know, turn that place around. And if it's like year 3 or year 4 and they still stink, it's like, then what do you turn to? Like, and granted, Matt Rule fell out of the sky and it kind of gives you some stability there. But it's like, if Mario can't do it, I literally do not know who could do it there.
Somebody always falls out of the sky if you have enough money. Speaking of, if this guy can't do it here, another ACC game, this time an actual conference game Friday night. Louisville, Georgia Tech. Louisville's a 7-point favorite. Jeff Brom, the prodigal son, returns. Meanwhile, you got Brent Key, who was the interim last year after Jeff Collins got fired. He takes over and gets to kind of put his own stamp on the program. Jack Plummer reunited at QB with Brom. They were together at Purdue, and then Plummer left, and now they're back together. Meanwhile, Haynes King, the starting quarterback for Georgia Tech. And Ari, if you've completed a pass to me in your career, it hasn't gone as well as you hoped. I think we can agree on that.
I was standing right next to you, but never will forget it. Yeah, that's going to be an interesting dynamic when it comes to, you know, Haynes King and Georgia Tech. And it's like, to me, like, I had a call with Jeff Brom in the middle of the offseason working on a recruiting story. And it's just like, my number one fascination with Louisville is just like what the plan is. It's like, do you go into Florida and just hope to stumble upon the next Lamar Jackson? Or do you try to push back at Kentucky a little bit in your own state? Do you go more regional and try to attack the Midwest? It's like, you know, Jeff Brom did a really good job at Purdue and building something out of nothing there and making them an entertaining team. And they had some really big upsets, a few of which I've been at. But the whole program building thing in this new in 2023, the year of our Lord, like, I don't know if like program plans are just different, you know, and I'm very excited to see, you know, what that rebuild looks like. And, you know, I kind of feel like, you know, with all these people returning home, it's just a fascinating era.
Yeah. And listen, I'm going to pick I'm going to pick Louisville in this game. I think that Jeff Brom is going to be great there. I don't know that they're going to be particularly great this season, although this is the easiest their schedule is going to get. This is the first year of the new ACC schedule. They missed the toughest opponents, so they should be probably better record-wise than maybe their talent would suggest. But I actually think Brom's going to do very well. If you can get Purdue to the Big Ten title game, you can definitely win at Louisville. So that's where I'm going with that. And
I'm with you on that. The recruiting statistics of how terrible Georgia Tech has been, despite being located in Atlanta, just like keep me up at night. It's like those space videos of just how far away Earth is from the longest point in the galaxy, like 23 million light years away. Like it's that, and what the hell's going on at Georgia Tech?
Farthest point in the galaxy. I was like, it's 93 million miles from the sun, Ari. It's
no, 23 million light years from the known universe. Do you know how far that is? And yet somehow Georgia Tech has still managed to be further away from signing a good recruiting class.
It's cold, man. But hey, as you say,
they had like 3 4-star prospects in like a 10-year period, and they're in Atlanta. It's awful.
Paul Johnson didn't really want them. Let's
I
be
know,
real.
I know.
And he knew how to win without him. So
it's still staggering to look at it on paper.
Yeah, it is incredible. All right. We will be right back with more picks for Saturday. But first, we got to talk about PrizePicks. PrizePicks, one of our favorite sponsors, and it's daily fantasy that you can play just about anywhere. 31 states, and a lot of the states you can play PrizePicks in, the states that you can't necessarily play anything else in. So if you're in Florida, if you're in Texas, if you're in Georgia, you can have some fun with PrizePicks. And here's how it works. It's daily fantasy, and so you're taking different squares with a player that it'll have a stat line, and you pick more than or less than, and you pick 2 to 6 players and you stack them up and you see what you're going to do. Here's my season pick at PrizePicks. So I've got Wisconsin running back Braylon Allen, more than 1,075.5 rushing yards. Florida State quarterback Jordan Travis, more than 23.5 touchdowns. Bo Nix, the Oregon quarterback, more than 23.5 touchdowns, and Brock Bowers, the Georgia tight end, more than 7.5 touchdown catches. Now, I know what you're saying, Andy. How come you didn't do any less thans? Because I like rooting for people. I don't like rooting against people. It makes me happy. So that's my season-long quest on PrizePicks. I've got one for this weekend as well, though. And it's definitely going to make a couple games. One game I think is going to be really interesting anyway. One game, I don't know how interesting it's going to be. But I've got Michael Penix Jr., the Washington quarterback. This is the one I feel probably most risky about. I picked more than 310.5 passing yards. They're playing Boise State. Boise State's defense is going to be pretty good. But I love watching Michael Penix play. Throws maybe the prettiest ball in all of college football. He's got great receivers. So I'm going to go more than 310.5. Also, when Texas plays Rice, now I know what you're thinking. You're not going with JT Daniels making his third start for a third different team against Texas. Remember, Georgia's the only team that he hasn't played for against Texas. No, I'm going with Xavier Worthy, the Texas receiver, more than 63.5. And if you remember that Oklahoma game when Xavier Worthy was a freshman, I think he got more than that on the first play. So he's a huge play threat, and against this defense, I do think he's going to have a chance to do pretty well. So download that PrizePicks app, use the referral code Andy. It's up to a $100 deposit match. So if your first deposit is $100, they'll match $100. If your first deposit is $50, they'll match $50. You download the PrizePicks app, give them the referral code Andy, and get playing. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be tracking it all season. We're going to be tracking it week by week, day by day, because they're loading new squares in there every single day. And by the way, you can do every sport. They've got the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball. I think they've got disc golf. Basically anything they play, you can play. And there's a free square that they're giving out until the NFL season begins, until the first week of the NFL season. And it is a Dak Prescott free square. So if Dak Prescott throws for more than half a yard in the season opener for the Cowboys, you win. So get to PrizePicks, download the app, referral code Andy, and get playing. Now, it's back to the picks with me and Ari. And we are moving on to Saturday, Ari. And we've got East Carolina at Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
You have Michigan interim coach Jesse Minter. This game is on Peacock. How many people are going to be going nuts at noon on Saturday because they're looking for the Michigan game and they can't find it on Peacock?
You know what I was thinking when it was on Peacock? I was just like imagining Jim Harbaugh fiddling with a remote at his house trying to figure out what channel it was on. You know, when he does the thing with the glasses and then he puts it down like halfway.
Help! Help!
I mean, it's just I have Peacock and I'm not necessarily sure how to find it still.
I just hope he gets bored because Michigan's crushing East Carolina and starts watching like Twisted Metal. And he's like, he comes back to the team. He's like, great job, guys. But man, that Sweet Tooth, like one of the best villains I've ever seen.
He is probably going to have an easy Saturday. I think that Michigan is going to steamroll. I love that he's playing games with who he's going to start at or give an opportunity to be the interim head coach. He did the same thing last year, I believe, when they were doing things with the quarterback. So, you know, Jim Harbaugh is always going to be Jim Harbaugh unapologetically, and they have a really, really good football team. I think that you and I could coach this team, offensive, defensive coordinator, and I think we could still cover the spread. I don't have any doubt in my mind that Michigan's going to come out firing and, you know, it's just going to physically manhandle East Carolina.
I'm just calling inside zone and power over and over again, just changing left to right. That's all.
Well, if you got to hit the 36-point spread with the new clock rules, though, you better start putting the ball in the air.
I don't even know if I have to. Or they're going to be able to run the ball on people. That O-line's going to be awesome.
I just feel like in order to cover a 36-point spread, you have to hit like an 80-yard touchdown here and there.
Yeah,
it can't just be, you know, drives. I mean, I don't think that Michigan would have to throw the ball to win the game. So I'm with you from that dynamic. And of course, we'd probably be more concerned about not losing than covering. But listen, if I were a coach in college football, I'd know what the number is. I'd know exactly what it was. And I tried to hit it every time for my glorious fans that support me every Saturday. You know, these coaches.
Do they adopt the philosophy of the interim coach? Because you've got the defensive coordinator as the interim coach in this game, and then Jay Harbaugh and Mike Hart have the UNLV game next week. So are they going to be more aggressive because they're offensive coaches? And like Sharon Moore, is he going to try to run the ball more because he's an O-line? Well, he's also the OC, so he throws too. But I am curious, like, will Minter's personality take over? And how much will the interim coach try to put his stamp on the game? Because this is an audition for these guys to be a head coach.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the idea here, right? Like, let a few guys on your staff get an opportunity to feel what it's like to sit in the big chair, and you know, hopefully they have a good opportunity to kind of showcase their skills and their leadership abilities, and you know, maybe that'll lead to, you know, some more staff continuity and or chemistry, and then maybe it might lead to somebody getting a job. So, you know, I think we kind of have an idea of if Jim Harbaugh were to leave for an NFL job, which I think is a distinct possibility considering what he's built there, who's going to be right on deck to take over there. But, you know, it is cool to see some other guys get an opportunity to do so. And, you know, I don't know if it's just me, but, you know, I've covered a lot of games in my time with interim coaches, and it just, you know, if the opponent stinks, then you're fine. Like it's not that interesting. Like, it's just going to be an easy game.
Like when you fire a guy, you might get the dead cat bounce off of that too. Or you might get the interim coach who's just a motivational genius like Cardinal Williams last year with Auburn. So
the interim coach that's just in place for a suspension. I mean, it's like there's no intrigue of who's going to be the next coach or what's this going to mean for the team once they lost their coach. It's like Jim Harbaugh's probably going to go get the same cheeseburger he bought and just sit on his couch with some tots and watch the game. Like, had
to go with the little brown jug reference.
Yeah.
You had to.
Yeah. Well, I ate there a few weeks ago and it was legitimately good. So,
well, there you go.
You know, I would have.
Did you send the receipts to the NCAA?
I did. Yeah. Don't they need some receipts?
You got to have a few. All right, let us move to Nashville, where Virginia will be taking on Tennessee. This is a musket versus a bazooka. So I make that joke because Tony Muskett is the starter at quarterback for your Virginia Cavaliers. The bazooka, of course, belongs to Joe Milton. And Ari, I'm fascinated about this game. JD Pickell and I, we envision nightmare scenarios for various fan bases. And we're trying to figure out situations where even if your team wins, your message board melts down. And JD had, if Joe Milton airmails 3 potential touchdown passes, VolQuest just goes ballistic.
It doesn't even matter what the score is if that happens.
No.
Like they could win 56-0. And Yeah. So like he also is one of the most interesting, quarterbacks coming into the season to watch, right? It's like
Yep.
you talk all the time about accuracy and whether or not you're able to improve that, or if being erratic is an innate trait that stays with you. But I kind of get the same feeling about Bazooka Joe as I did last year with Anthony Richardson. We both were talking about Anthony Richardson a year ago, about how he could play his way into being a top 5 pick, and lo and behold, it happened. And why?
And they went
Because he has
6-6.
and by the way, like, I hate to say it, and I don't know if it's rude, but like, wasn't very good at all in college.
No.
Like, in terms of like what you would expect from a production standpoint for a top 5 pick at the quarterback position. And I kind of feel like Joe Milton is kind of in that same place because he has a cannon for an arm. He's a big kid. He's been around the block a lot. Like, how does he have to perform for Tennessee to make the playoff or to be in playoff contention come late October, November? And what does he have to do to be in contention to be a top 10 pick are two very different things. And the question I have is, if he does one, will he do the other? And
he's got to be as good or better than Hendon Hooker if they want to be in playoff contention. And that's saying a lot. He doesn't have to be that good to be a top 10 pick.
Yeah. But do you believe that you can fix accuracy problems?
I believe that in the Orange Bowl against a really good Clemson defense, he looked like a different person. That said, he wasn't particularly accurate against Vanderbilt the week before, or the game before. So I have no idea. I really don't, but I can't wait to watch. And if he does airmail a couple touchdown or what should be touchdown passes, then I can't wait to see the push for Nico, because it's gonna come.
Well,
It's
the
coming.
thing about that is that, like, I don't even know if Nico is physically equipped to play it. I mean, I stood next to him 6 months ago, and I mean he's a very thin kid, and I know that's
Have you met his dad?
I have, but he doesn't look like his dad.
But he's going to
He
look
does
more
not
like
now.
his dad, and when he does, he's going to be a 6'6", 235-pound monster.
Yeah, but right now, if you had to throw that kid into the game, like, is he physically able to do so? I think is an interesting question, and like, for him to get into a game this year, I think that Joe would have to get injured or miss time for something, because I think the leash is very, very long here. And, I think that you also too kind of have to live with the erratic nature of his ability, like, that's just kind of what it is. And when you pick him to be your starting quarterback, I think you have to go into it understanding that, there are going to be times where he might throw a ball in the second row of the stand. It reminds me of that, which Mighty Ducks character used to slap shot and it never went in. But when Fulton. Yeah, it's like, what a shot. And, every now and then it breaks some glass, but when it goes through, it goes through. Just, you have to live with it. Like, Joe Milton is Fulton. And if
not a comparison I expected, but that's why I brought you on.
But it makes sense though, right? Like,
100%.
It's like, when he slaps the ball, the puck, you don't know where it's going to go. And, hopefully Milton will be a little bit more accurate than that, but there will be times where he misses throws or, has issues. And Tennessee just has to be a good enough team to withstand those things, because when you put your trust in somebody like this, you have to anticipate that, what their negative marks on their resume would be are going to show up.
So do we think they cover a 4-touchdown spread?
I do. Yeah. I think that Tennessee is going to be a really exciting offensive football team this year. I think it's going to look a lot like it did a year ago. I mean, I think the quarterbacks are very different, but I think that Tennessee has a coach that knows how to drop some offense. And I don't really know if Virginia has the athletes to keep up. And listen, if you're going to throw a deep ball with Joe Milton, just make sure his heels are on his own 20. And even if he underthrows it, maybe you'll get a receiver that can run under it,
Jalen Hyatt's not walking through that door, although Squirrel White is very, very fast.
Yeah, isn't he fast? Yeah.
they've got some speed. It's not really a concern. All right, Ari. Big noon Saturday. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Coach Prime leading the Colorado Buffaloes to Amon G. Carter Stadium to face a team that played for the national title last year.
So, yeah, have we ever been less certain of what a football team is going to look like coming into a year than we are for this Colorado team? I was trying to think of it's like any other team ever.
Except they got some really good players in the expansion draft.
They have. So, here's the thing that I think is really interesting about Colorado. Their secondary looks like it just got off a high school bus, or was in the extras in the Friday Night Lights show, Dylan
Their
Panthers.
second union with the one with Travis Hunter, the former
No,
number
but the
one
rest
overall
of
recruit?
it. But I was going to say that Travis Hunter is going to be the best player on the field in all but one game they play this year.
Except for Caleb Williams. That's it.
That's
okay.
it, right?
I mean, Oregon's got some good players.
I know, but Travis Hunter is legitimately a very, very good. Like he's like
Yes.
walk in and start at Alabama and Georgia
He
right
could
away.
start at
type
any
player.
program in the country. Yes.
Yes. And I don't know how much we're going to get of him on both sides of the ball. That's really interesting. Don't know how good Shedeur Sanders is going to be. I don't know whether or not their offensive line can block anybody. Colorado's, that is. I don't know if their defensive line can get pressure. And like I was impressed by the notion that they went up from number 63 to number 35 in the team talent rankings. Like that's a huge jump. That's not a one-win team on paper. But now you have also a coach that's competing at this level at the highest point in his career for the first time. And it's just kind of like you have all these moving parts together, and they kind of like, piecemeal the roster together with a bunch of players from all over the place, and some of whom were really, really good at lower levels, some of whom didn't reach their potential as highly rated recruits at other places that are coming in. So it's like even that the math on that is probably going to be off. So it's like even if Shedeur Sanders is awesome and Travis Hunter is awesome, like what if TCU just runs for 7 yards a carry in this game? And
I just worry about Colorado's big people. That's where I'm concerned, because big people are hard to get out of the portal. Good big people are hard to find in the transfer portal. And so you got to deal with that. Also, I just think this TCU team could be pretty good. Chandler Morris was the day one starter last year. He gets hurt. Max Duggan never gives the job back. But Chandler Morris is probably the higher physical ceiling quarterback of the two. And then you've also got, some of these guys they brought in, Trey Sanders, John Paul Richardson, like they got guys who've played, who know what they're doing. And so, yes, they lost 7 draft picks, and it will look different. But I think they're still going to be pretty good. I think TCU covers this game.
Yeah, I'm with you on this. Based on not knowing exactly what we're getting, and it's possible. It's like, what if Travis Hunter comes out and has 4 touchdown catches? Like that, is on the table because he's that good. But when you're looking at a team that is going to struggle to cover outside of Travis Hunter and has really undersized lines, TCU is a team that is built for contact. They're a very hard-nosed team. They're disciplined. They obviously know how to work their way around the portal pretty well themselves. It's not just the Dion show in that regard. And if TCU can just run over them and physically manhandle them, is Colorado going to have the temperament to, be competitive? That's the thing. It's like Deion Sanders is, kind of preached about being hard on his team and putting them through hell through the first offseason that he's had there, and, trying to equip them for these types of challenges. But going on the road to a team that, wasn't one of the 4 best teams in college football last year, but was certainly coached like one, that's not an easy thing to open at. So, and on the road and all that stuff, like TCU is going to be coming out firing. I really, really have a hard time picturing a scenario where Colorado covers the spread.
And if they do, it'll be the story of the week in
college
What's
success
football.
to you? What's success to you for them in this game? In
this game, keep it within 2 touchdowns. Like that, and have it be competitive late in the third quarter. I think that would represent success to me. And if it's better than that, then that's all we're going to be talking about, because we'll be very excited to see them play Nebraska.
38-24, 38-27 type of game, I think that would be a raging success for them.
Absolutely. Because I don't think he has to make a bowl game for this to be a successful season. I think if they win 3 or 4, given what they've tried to do,
but there is a major disconnect from casual fans, Andy, who don't understand. Like, I think there's a lot of people, like I was in the gym today, believe it or not, and somebody I was working out with was talking about, God, I can't wait to watch Coach Prime on Saturday. They're gonna get the Natty this year. And it's like there is a major, major disconnect between what Colorado is and what like general low-level college football fan perception is. And I am also too very curious to see how Deion Sanders behaves in loss, because he's been winning and he's been the show all off season. His quotes are funny. He likes to say what's on his mind, and he says it in a funny, charismatic way. But he doesn't talk to the media very much. That's not his own well-off media. And he's going to have to walk into a press conference after a game, and if they get pumped, it'll be very interesting to see how he and his team can handle that moving forward.
Absolutely. All right. Another game that back when we were together, we talked about this team all the time. And I'm excited to begin the drive for 325. Utah State at Iowa. Iowa is a 24-point favorite, meaning unless they're pitching a shutout, they're going to have to be on pace for Brian Ferentz to keep his job to win this, to cover this spread.
So this is it, right? This is like where they score 48 points and kind of give them some breathing room if they can do that. You know, an upgraded quarterback.
I think they can do that. Well, we don't know if Cade McNamara is going to play. Kirk Ferentz has gotten less and less optimistic about that as we've gone. So it may be Deacon Hill, but
because Spencer Petras isn't even on the team anymore.
No. I think this offense will be better given the parts they had. And I was at Big Ten Media Days and listening to Kirk Ferentz talk about how banged up their offensive line was and all the issues they went through last year and how it's just in a better place now. I think Iowa's going to be fine. I actually think Iowa's going to compete for the Big Ten West title, but we got to get off our jokes before they're averaging 32 points a game and we can't get them off anymore.
Yeah. We're going to get the jokes off. Okay. I mean, I think that like the fact that the number is there is always going to be funny. And even if they're on pace, like they're still like a 7-3 win away from getting back off pace. So that's the thing about this.
That would be the score of their first game last year.
Yeah. And against a team that was an FCS team, if I remember correctly.
That was the FCS national champion, South Dakota State. Yeah.
Okay. So what were they, like bottom half of the Power 5 good, or are they an FCS team?
Probably at bottom of the Power 5 good, yeah.
You think so?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they were good. They beat the Boise.
I mean, here's the thing, too. Is like I've seen a lot of predictions of like Iowa representing the Big Ten West in the Big Ten title game this year. Like, you know, their offense isn't supposed to be awesome, too. It's supposed to be somewhat functional in order to set up ugly, disgusting wins that make you want to pull your hair out while you're watching it. It's like Kirk Ferentz said in a press conference today that like his favorite score or his favorite win at Iowa was like a 7-4 game or 6-4 game or something. It's like the antithesis of what we find entertaining as sports fans. But, you know, like that's the thing. It's like Iowa, for how much we made fun of the situation that they were in last year, like in October, early November, was still alive in the hunt.
If they don't
play for the
lose
Big
to
Ten
Nebraska,
title.
they win the West.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think they're going to be fine. I actually think they're going to cover this spread. I don't think the drive to 325 is going to be all that dramatic at all. But, I mean, right now, especially if McNamara can't play, maybe there's some drama. I don't think there will be any drama in Austin. I know you recently visited Austin. You and Max Olson sent me barbecue pictures. I was very jealous. Terry Black's.
You've never been to Terry Black's before?
I haven't. I not. It's one of the newer ones. Now it's the family. They had a place in Lockhart, I believe, for the longest time, but I have not. It looked amazing. The trays were.
It was my best barbecue experience of my life.
It looked incredible. So
everything hit. So let me ask you this: we're not going to pick this game. I mean, I guess Texas minus 35. You know,
Texas covers. There you go.
But do you think that the playoff thought process is just like, you think I'm crazy again, or like we haven't had to talk about it?
I don't think you're crazy. I think Texas is more talented, legitimately, than it has been in years. And I'm not talking about recruiting stars. I'm talking about what like NFL people, line.
Yep.
Yeah, what NFL people think. Like they want to draft Kelvin Banks when he's eligible in 2025. Like they love the secondary. They love the receivers. They love Jatavian Sanders. So they've got guys that they just did not have. That said, I need to see them win the games they're supposed to win. I need to see them, you know, like they should beat TCU, even though TCU is, I just got done saying they're very good. That's a team Texas should be able to beat. You know, that they should be able to beat Kansas State, even though I think Kansas State is an excellent team and could potentially repeat as Big 12 champ. They should be able to beat them. And they did.
The thing that's interesting to me is that they've got better lines than they've ever had, and I guess in the recent past. Their offensive skill talent jumps off the page. I expect Quinn Ewers to be better. And both big-time matchups that they have this year are against teams that we believe to not be peak versions of themselves. Like Oklahoma isn't the Oklahoma that they've had to play every year for the most
Right.
part of the last decade. And Alabama, which I think we're going to get to here, has an offense that, has a lot of question marks. We don't know who the quarterback's going to be, and they also don't have any dynamic, proven skill players that can go win them a football game. So even if they go 1-1 in those games, the main question to the season, and I guess it's the same question it always is for Texas, is can Sark coach this team in a way that helps them avoid losing to teams that they shouldn't lose to? Because if you look at the teams that they should beat, they're only going to be dogs in one game all year.
Yeah.
So like when you look at the path is there, the team is there. So it's like, this is it. Like it's like now or like I'm out. Like this is like more analysis that I've given Texas in my entire life. In the past, I've had problems like looking at the composite rankings and being fooled. But when you actually like look under the hood and see what they have on the lines and the actual team that they're going to be fielding this year, there's really not that much not to like about it.
So let's talk about Middle Tennessee and Alabama since you mentioned it.
Okay.
39 is the line, is the spread. I actually think if Alabama's farting around at quarterback and trying to figure some stuff out, they might not be able to cover that.
Well, do you think it's Middle Tennessee State. I think they lost a ton in the offseason, but this is a functional program. I mean, we're a year removed from
they beat Miami.
The team beating Miami. So it's not like a rollover, but like, is Alabama going to take 10-yard slants to the house from their own 20? Like, are they going to like get broken coverages over the top and get easy 80-yard touchdowns? Because if they're not, like 40 is a really large spread to cover. Now, I don't know if Middle Tennessee State's going to score because Alabama's defense is going to be incredibly good and the jewel of the team and the unit. But I just don't know if Alabama has an offense to score 40 points against the best defenses in the country.
Well, and also, no, it doesn't. It's not going to play like that anymore.
But it can't win like that. It's not going to be winning like this is 1973 this year. Like either you figure it out or you're going to lose.
There's a midway point between 1973 and 2020. And it's not 1993.
I mean, what was the final score of the Ohio State-Georgia game last year?
41-40.
So it's like that's the game you have to be able to win because you're going to be playing in that game eventually. And I'm not saying that for like Middle Tennessee State, like whatever, they can go score 60 on them. It's like nobody would blink. But when they play Georgia or when they play Ohio State or they play Michigan or one of these teams, that is going to be scoring a ton in that setting, you have to have a dynamic offense that can score against a very good defense. And that's the reason why I didn't pick them to make the playoff this year. They are the most talented team in college football by far. And I still don't see the pathway of how you could pick them over LSU or Georgia to win their own conference.
I think they will have a defense that's better and that they won't have to win that game 41-40. They'll have to win it 31-30. And I think, I think if they can run the ball well enough, they can do that. That's where I think they are improved.
Yeah, and I guess there's a lot on the shoulders of Chase McClellan and that offensive line to kind of be that way.
Haynes, baby, Justice Haynes.
And it's like also too, it's like, are we turning quarterback competition into who's the best battering ram? It's like just Milroe's going to be the guy who can run the ball the most. Like,
I don't think so. I think you want somebody who can throw the ball. I think you want an effective passing game. Now, does Milroe give you enough in the quarterback run that allows you to have guys wide open? Because people are terrified of him running or somebody else running. That's fine against everybody except Georgia. Like Georgia's not going to be scared of that. That doesn't bother Georgia at all. You got to be able to throw the ball. So they got to figure out that quarterback situation. I don't think they have to figure it out for the Texas game. I think they have to figure it out by the Ole Miss game when their real SEC gauntlet starts, but they got to get it figured out. All right. Another quarterback situation where we're going to see two. We know what order they're going to come in. Ohio State at Indiana. Kyle McCord. I don't know if you heard, he was Marvin Harrison's high school quarterback. He'll be starting first. Devin Brown, we'll see him later.
In the great city of Philly, right?
That's exactly right.
Indiana has been really bad the last 2 years. I don't know if I love the spread while Ohio State is just having their spring game in the first week of the year. Like, how do you do this?
30 in a conference game is a lot.
No matter on the road in week one, figuring stuff out. and not really knowing who your quarterback is, or like, I'm sure they have a plan, but we don't know what the plan is. Is it every other series? Is it 3 series and 3 series? Are these guys going to be amped up to make plays because they know they're having a quarterback competition that's live on television? And I understand like why you're doing this. You want to get these guys both reps and ready to pick somebody, in my opinion, for the Notre Dame game, which happens in 3 weeks. Like it all makes sense, but 30 points is a lot of points. And, if Indiana, hits a big play or causes a turnover earlier on in the game, and it's one of these games where it's 21-7 at halftime, like, Ohio State probably still would find a way to cover that, but it's just like, I don't feel really good about it. So, and then in the vein of just having to pick one, I'd probably take the points with Indiana, just because I think experimental mode Ohio State isn't Ohio State on full cylinders, and 30 points is a lot if you're not going on full cylinders against a conference opponent.
I'm going to take Ohio State to cover. They're often going to be fine.
Yeah, I know. I don't know, but you know how it is sometimes, though, with these.
No,
I've covered a lot of Ohio State games in my career where it was just like, what's going on out there?
Yeah, these can't all be chalk. And here's one that feels like it might be non-chalky. Boise State at Washington. Washington's a 2-touchdown favorite in this game. Boise State seemed to get better last year. They figured out that Taylon Green's their guy at QB. But then you got Michael Penix, and that man can throw.
It's beautiful.
He's got targets.
Whenever the ball's in the air in slow motion, it's like smooth jazz, just plays over the speakers.
It's like the NFL film shot over and over again. Just the prettiest spiral.
But there are a lot of people out there that actually think that Boise State has a chance to win this football game. I don't know if I buy that, but I think it's going to be I feel like you have to take Washington since your prize picks. You're taking over 310
No,
yards
it doesn't. That doesn't mean I have to take them. If I took, I think Penix can throw for more than 311 yards, and they can still only win by 13 points. So
I think the points,
it's a lot of points to give Boise State.
Points. And Boise State is a 10-win team this year, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna take Boise State to cover. I think Washington still wins.
Well, actually, everybody's taking Boise, and including me, which means that Washington's probably going to win 41-10. But you know how that goes.
Ari, this is a quick one. I think I still know the answer to this. UTSA at Houston. I was going to take UTSA to cover. This was a 3 overtime game last year that Houston barely won. UTSA probably should have won it. Houston is wearing these uniforms.
I know. I'm taking Houston because of it.
I'm still taking UTSA. But those uniforms are beautiful. The old Oilers colors. Love it.
Houston Oilers is a Houston thing, not a Tennessee thing. Don't at me.
Oh, no, you're right. The Titans don't need to be wearing that. And I would love if Houston could put the oil derrick on the side of the helmet too. That would be awesome.
Has there ever been oil in Tennessee? I didn't want to tweet that because I wasn't sure. And I don't
know. It's a very long state. I'm sure somebody struck oil there somewhere.
That's a Ari Google history.
Was that where Jed Clampett and his family lived before they went to Beverly Hills?
You're barking up the wrong tree with that question. I don't even know what that means.
Maybe they lived in West Virginia. Let's move on to West Virginia at Penn State. 20.5-point favorite, the Nittany Lions against YOLO Neil Brown. What are they going to do? Fire me? Trick play. Run every trick play.
Yeah, I don't know. We got into a lot of discussions over the past year about Drew Aller and like what he's supposed to be this year. But, for the first time in a long time, like I come into a season feeling like Penn State is a legit, threat in the Big Ten East. And, it's a tough game, but it being a whiteout, I believe, right? And it's at home, it's at night. Penn State's fired up to kind of turn the page.
I think the whiteout Iowa.
It's a night game, right?
Yeah. It's a night.
So even if it's not the whiteout, I don't know. I might have misspoke there. That place is going to be rocking. I just think Penn State has too much firepower, and you can run the annexation of Puerto Rico if you want. You got to line up and win the game and win reps. And I just don't think West Virginia is equipped to do that. I do love C.J. Donaldson though. I really like.
He's a tight end playing running back, and he's really good. By the way, UConn drove the ball down the field on NC State. I'm not liking my NC State to cover pick, although NC State is right back in score in the red zone. So maybe it's okay. I think Penn State, I don't know. Okay. I think this is the one where Penn State gets scared. I picked them to make the playoff. So obviously I think they're very good. I think they're finally, in terms of elite talent, close enough to Michigan and Ohio State to really sniff a Big Ten title. But I think this is the game where they get scared. So YOLO Neil Brown to cover but not to win. How's that sound?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not with you on the Penn State, the playoff thing.
Oh, I know you're not.
But it'll be interesting to see, what kind of Penn State team we like. Are we going to get like a really, really good Penn State team? Or are we going to see a team in State College that's a juggernaut or looks like one?
I think that depends on how good your Raller is. I think that's probably it. Oh, by the way, Matt in the chat, the Clampets were from Tennessee, so oil has been struck at least once, at least fictionally, in the state of Tennessee. So there you go.
Never seen the Clampets or whatever that's from.
You're missing out.
What is it?
Granny, Jethro, Ellie Mae.
No clue.
Now we're back. We're back. All right, we got 2 more games to talk about, Ari.
Okay.
The battle for Carolina in Charlotte. I'll call it the Battle of Carowinds. You don't know what that means, but that's an amusement park.
I also
Part
don't
of it
know what
is in
that
North
means.
Carolina, and part of it is in South Carolina.
How many references do you think you could make if you tried really hard to like references that I would never heard of before or have no idea of its existence? Like, do you think you could get 50 in one?
100 per show. Yeah, Carowinds would be the place where, when I was 4 years old, we went there, and there was a free Jimmy Buffett concert for all who had bought tickets to Carowinds. And so that was my first concert, and I fell asleep promptly. Can't imagine what would have made me sleepy that would have been hanging in the air at a Jimmy Buffett concert in 1982. But I'm sure you can imagine. So
that's what they call early exposure.
Exactly. Exactly. So North Carolina, South Carolina, the Tar Heels are a 2.5-point favorite. The total here is 64.5 over. And I'm taking South Carolina straight up because I'm going to need proof from that North Carolina defense that it is somewhat more functional.
I'm taking North Carolina. I love Drake May. I love everything that he stands for. I think that there's a lot of question marks on both sides of the ball.
No Tez Walker
for both teams.
News yet. I don't think, and I don't know that they're going to get good news on Tez Walker.
Yeah,
it'd be nice if they did, but I don't see it coming.
Yeah, no, I just like, it's hard because North Carolina always loses or plays embarrassing football when people expect something from them, and kind of this year they do have a little of that. But I've just kind of like the side that they're on. I know that people are waiting for the resurgence of South Carolina football here under Shane Beamer, but I like North Carolina in this one.
All right, Ari. Last one, Sunday night, the featured game. I will be there live and in person. LSU and Florida State. LSU is a 2.5-point favorite. I'm interested in the total on this game. We have the graphic. We have 64.5. I had 56 this morning. Am I missing something here? What's going on here? I'm gonna look this up.
It's 56.5.
That's what I thought. Okay, 56.5 is the total. I think this hits the over because I think Florida State's best position group is its receivers. LSU's worst position group is its DBs. So they're going to score a bunch. That doesn't mean I think LSU is necessarily going to lose. I just think it's going to be a track meet.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that they think that LSU is a team that they think could win a championship this year, like win it all.
Right.
And I do kind of feel like LSU is kind of still in that Alabama-ish type territory where it's like, I want to see the proven playmakers that can win them a football game. I don't know that I'm 100% bought in either on the ceiling of Jaden Daniels. Like, I think that Florida State has a quarterback advantage in this game. I think their offensive line is the best iteration of itself that it's been in years.
Still not as good as LSU's probably, but yes.
Probably not, but
Jordan
Jordan Travis is going to be well protected. And of course, Florida State's strength with Keon Coleman and Johnny over there is going to be going right into the teeth of LSU's weakness, and it's like, it's very easy to step your foot in the team rankings trap and like just go for the talent. But like Florida State's old. They're veteran.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a lot of good players who have already proven time and time again to be really, really good, and they're getting points, So both of these teams, I think, will be in college football playoff contention. I think it's possible that they could play again down the line. But in a game like this, I just, the one thing here is the X factor is Harold Perkins. Like, could Harold Perkins just wreck Florida State's entire night? by himself, because I think he's
if
the
Mason
best
Smith
player.
were playing, it'd be easier for
Yeah.
him to do it.
And that's the other thing. He's not playing. So I know it's the grab ass suspension of the century, but he's not playing. So, I just kind of feel like in a game that is kind of 50-50 to me, that I would lean towards taking the points. I think the pendulum's swinging towards Florida State for me.
I take Florida State too. I take Florida State to win straight up. I think for the same reasons you said. I think Brian Kelly has been telling us, is telegraphing this all season, that he doesn't think LSU is quite there yet depth-wise in terms of being a title contender, and they're going to drop, like they're going to win probably something they're not supposed to, and they're going to drop something they're not supposed to. This is the one I think they drop to an older team that is just, veteran heavy and very good in certain spots. Keon Coleman, Jared Verse coming off the edge. That's where Florida State has premium talent. They do not have premium talent everywhere. It's not like Georgia. It's not like Ohio State. But LSU's not there yet either. And I think that's what Brian Kelly's been trying to tell us all summer.
Yeah, and he's also alluded to depth issues. And they've had to, get some guys in transfer portal in the secondary, right, to kind of come in and try to bandage some things up. So, listen, I think that Florida State, and you've kind of been on the Florida State bandwagon a little bit longer than the rest of the country in terms of like this is headed in the right direction. I wonder if Mike Norvell is going to be able to teach a master class on how to build a team through the portal. And then, of course, that matriculates down into being a more attractive destination for high school players, because it's starting to get momentum with some of these 5-star guys in the 2024 class. And it's like all of a sudden it's just like, holy crap, like Florida State might be for real in 3. I mean, like back in 3 or 4 years.
It's going to take a couple of recruiting classes to get them to that level. But yes, if they can keep recruiting the way they have been, and in this class holds and they have another 1 or 2 like it, it could be pretty good. Ari, this has been amazing. I know you got to go watch football now for work.
Yeah.
Tough life.
For work. Yeah. No, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm going to go kiss the baby on the forehead. Bruce Feldman's coming over to watch the games. I'm super excited about that.
Wow.
And, we're going to have a party here. If you can get out here, just we could have done this live. And we've done a podcast in this room before,
That's
we could have done it again, but maybe down the line.
Well, yeah, Paul Chris got fired. That's the last time we did a podcast in that room.
That's right. That's right. Well, you know what? This room is here waiting for you. You got a bed in my house.
Let's hope it doesn't require that for that to happen. But Ari, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Always great linking up with you, Andy. Thanks for having me on, and I miss you, bud.
What a party that's going to be in Casa de Wasserman tonight. Whew. I am jealous. They've also he's next to a location of Heim Barbecue, which if you've not tried Heim Barbecue, it started in Fort Worth, but they've got, I believe, 3 locations in the Metroplex now. One of them is very near Ari's house. They do bacon burn ends. Oh, unbelievable. Just unbelievable. It is spectacular barbecue. And if I had it that close to my house, it would be very dangerous. That's all I can say. All right, let's explain how this is going to. This is a weird night. We're not used to this level of quality game on Thursday. So we're going to do this every Thursday, but we wanted to make sure that we got off the air, got you out to watch the big games on Thursday night. But here's what's going to happen. I'm going to be back after the games. Instant reaction. And we'll be doing this on Saturdays too. After each window of games, I'm going to be popping on the On3 Sports YouTube channel live. And you can come in, chime in the comments. You know how we do the Dear Andy's, where you send me the question. You can send a video to andystapleson3@gmail.com. You can also send it to me on Twitter or X or whatever we're calling it these days at Andy_Staples. I want your reactions to these games because we got to talk about all this stuff as it happens. I want the raw, uncut stuff when your team has just blown a big lead and lost. Like that's what I want to see. I want the pure emotion. So bring it, because that's the most fun we have here is right after those games when we're talking and we can't believe what we just saw. That's what's coming. So after Florida and Utah, after Minnesota, Nebraska, I'll pop on. If you're a podcast listener, you've already heard what I will have done as the instant reaction. You will have listened to it at the beginning of the show. So we'll be doing that from here on out. Thursday nights are going to be us picking games against the spread. It's going to be a different guest picker every week. We'll keep score. We'll see who wins, me or the guest pickers. It may be that if I get down, I maybe try to pick a guest picker who I don't think is going to get a lot of games right. We'll see. Maybe I try to rig it that way. But it is going to be so much fun. We are here. College football 2023 week 1 begins now.